Hello one, hello all, it is the gothiest ghost of them all, Caspa in the flesh, and it's time for a review of Slipknot-The End so far. Slipknot is a metal band straight from Iowa, and I first heard about these guys when I was in high school. And through high school, I'm gonna admit, I was more of a rap guy, more of an R&B guy, and then later on I moved to other genres, experienced other genres, and my taste buds just grew. They grew. And along my journey of metal, Slipknot came into the picture. And these guys were pretty much big in the metal scene when I was in high school. I didn't get it at first, but then in my college years, I checked them out. I thought they were absolutely incredible. I was like, holy shit, mind blown. These guys are fusing like rap, they're fusing thrash metal and a bunch of other elements, and just being experimental, being hard-hitting, being very angsty and angry. And through the course of time, I checked out more metal bands that hit harder than this. But that's not to discredit their first two albums, which are great, such as the debut, such as Iowa, and I know that they came out with other albums in the past before the 1999 self-titled. You had Mate, Feed, Kill, Repeat. You had self-titled 97. But we're not going to talk about that. We're going to say the band finally came into form when Corey joined. Cool. So yeah, Iowa absolutely just kicking ass. And I felt like that was the peak. That was the absolute peak of Slipknot right there. Because afterwards, the heaviness wore off. Like, Corey was singing more. They were getting a little too commercial by metal standards. And I wanted something heavier. So, like I said, I pretty much found a love for doom metal. I found a love for thrash metal. I found a love for black and death metal, black metal. The list goes on. If you want more recommendations, hit me up. I'll give you a list. But yeah. And another thing too, there were passings of band members, unfortunately, such as Paul, the bassist, Joey Jordison on drums. And yeah, when there's changes in the lineup, there could be changes in sounds as well. It happens. So going into this thing, I heard a few teasers, and some grew on me over time, some didn't. I think that some hit hard, some were a little melodramatic with the inclusion of lyrics of self-harm, which Corey sometimes sings about. And I don't know, man, it's like when they go into the sorrow, when they go into the slower tracks, the sombering tracks, it just doesn't hit for me. And I wish it did. And I just think when they're kicking ass, when they're giving us these driving riffs, these super spiraling tremolos, and Corey is just absolutely screaming his brains out, is where Slipknot victors, where they just come up with the most hellish, hard-hitting shit and give you a catchy chorus along the way. And you could say that Wait and Bleed had that, where there were melodic bits in there, but it still had a visceral punch to it. It still had ferocity to it. And speaking of sombering, what the hell is up with the intro here? Like, this screams, oh, sorry, wrong set. It feels like this track just walked on to the set. It was like, Radiohead and Coldplay tribute band down the hall. Gotcha. And another thing too, don't get me wrong, I enjoy when bands switch it up sometimes, but at least try to nail what you're going for. And goddamn, the bass is weak as hell. The progression of it is like so tedious. And the drums are absolutely lifeless. Like, they have no life on here. And Corey's singing isn't really that flattering either. So you're not really batting 1,000 with this intro. The album does pick up, however, on the Dying song with these fiery tremolos. Corey's just going absolutely ballistic with his vocals and the firing, chuggy guitar lines. And I also dig the vocal variations here from like clean to dirty, which kind of reminds me of Wait and Bleed. I feel like they really captured that essence once again. Following track is sick too. Like Corey's vocals are so brutal, with these anthemic vocals in the mix, rapid drums, iconic record scratching, and these absolutely hellish spiraling tremolos like I mentioned earlier. Those are here. So if you like those, you won't be disappointed there, because I wasn't. And it just makes me feel like there is like a fiery barrage of asteroids just coming down the earth and just pummeling it. And this fiery tornado is just whirling and just pummeling everything in its sight. I know tornadoes don't work like that. They don't jump. But in my mind, this song makes me feel like they do. Okay? Okay. And also, I dig the inclusion of grunge on here. Like, I feel like there's like an Alice in Chains-esque thing going on Acidic. So yeah, this album does capture raw essence. This album does capture the brutal nature of Slipknot. But there are spots on here where the angst wears off. And we get these mediocre tracks that have these dull cleans, bland guitar performances, melodramatic lyrics, and I just feel like it lacks the finality, the impact of the finality it was going for. And another thing too, the lyrics here could get cheesy. The messaging could get cheesy. And I hate when that happens. When you're trying to be edgy and you're trying to feel like you're making a point, but the point's not really that important. Like on the song Warranty, where they're basically comparing themselves to a product, like they're this product in a shop and people are like investing in them and then they get sick of them and then they go brand new. And I'm like, I feel like when you do that, you're feeding into the commercialism of metal when metal's not supposed to be commercialism. And it could be cheeky too. They could be just throwing a gag out there, but I don't think it's funny. So I feel like this track kind of lands pretty flat here. And also like the narrative of this album. Like when I hear the narrative, the end so far, like I just picture absolute chaos, like super distortion, fiery riffs all throughout. And there could be some slowdown moments, that's fine, but it's not well executed. It just sounds like when they go for the cool down moments, they're just throwing it in and just letting it be. I don't feel like they've tightened up in the cool down spectrum. And then the album doesn't really end well either. You get these plucky strings, the pianos are cheesy, and then we get these blown out guitar leads. And if that doesn't annoy you, the super panting choir vocals will. Like, this sounds like a group of opera singers being pushed in line. That's what it sounds like. Sounds like they're standing in line and going like, yeah, that's what it sounds like. And it's bad, really bad. So yeah, this album, while not terrible, not making my worst album of the year list, it's definitely not making my best albums of the year list. So yeah, I was disappointed with this one. And don't get me wrong, if a band is going to go cinematic, I feel like there needs to be more care into that, in opposed to just being cinematic. Like, tighten up the production, make it feel more epic, because a lot of these sonic qualities are just coming off flat and half-baked. But that's just my opinion. You can take it with a grain of salt. But yeah, I'm feeling a 2.5 hearts out of 5 on this album. But again, that's my opinion. If you've checked this out, what did you think of it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Why? Let me know in the comments. Caspa, Gothic Ghost, Slipknot. The end so far. Till we meet again.